Ready to go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like to welcome you to the February change of zone meeting, Islip Town Board. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd ask Councilwoman Bergen if she could please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, there are 3 change of zone public hearings scheduled for this evening and 1 decision item. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind everyone that if you wish to address the board regarding any of the scheduled public hearings, either use the raise hand function on Zoom or type into the Q&A line stating which particular hearing you wish to speak on. Our first hearing is TC 5361, 111 Realty Corp. And I ask the town clerk, Olga, if you would please read the hearing notice.
Sure, thank you very much. Public hearing TC 5361, 111 Realty Corp. Notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of Islip will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 25th, 2021 at 5 p.m. via Zoom webinar and will be streamed live over the internet on the application of 111 Realty Corp. Applicant requests a change of zone from business district to business 3, a town board special permit for a gasoline service station pursuant to section 68-302C, and a planning board special permit for a convenience market, section 68-302.1D. Site plan modifications are part of this application, and the environmental impacts will also be assessed on this property located in the Bayshore School District on the southwest corner of Union Boulevard and 4th Avenue, Bayshore, also known as 1684 Union Boulevard and 1692 Union Boulevard, County Road 50 and 160 Maple Avenue, Town of Islip, Suffolk County, New York. Town Board, Town of Islip, Olga Murray, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Olga. I see the applicant is here, ready to go. Jean, if you will.
Thank you.
Quickly lead us through this.
Members of the board, good evening, or good afternoon. The applicant is seeking a change of zone from BD District to Business 3 District, the town board special permit for gasoline service station, and the applicant is also seeking a planning board special permit for a convenience market. The applicant is requesting this relief to permit the redevelopment of an existing site containing a retail gasoline filling station and convenience market. The subject premises, as indicated in the call of the meeting, is located at the southwest corner of Union Boulevard, which is also known as County Route 50, and 4th Avenue, Bayshore. Across Union Boulevard to the north is the Bayshore train station and its parking facilities. To the northeast is a 7-Eleven branded filling station with a convenience store. If you proceeded further east along the northeast side of Union Boulevard, there's the United Veterans Organization Beacon House, Family Dollar Store, and in general along Union Boulevard we have a mix of commercial, business, office, and residential uses. Across 4th Avenue to the east is the Toro Health Science School and its extensive parking field. And obviously, I'm just going to note to the board, I'm sure they're aware that the site consists of 10.3 acres and was granted a change of zone to Downtown Development District to develop an apartment house complex on September 17, 2020. To the south is a 2-story office building housing a real estate office and a Christian mission. And if you go down 4th Avenue, it's also a mix of multifamily uses, businesses, offices, etc. The intersection of Union and 4th is controlled by an overhead traffic signal. Now, the proposed redevelopment consists of 3 separate parcels, as indicated in the call of the meeting. One parcel, 1692 Union Boulevard, currently has a gasoline filling station with a convenience store operating there on 11,500 square feet of plot area. The applicant has acquired the parcel to the west on Union Boulevard. That is 1684 Union Boulevard. That's approximately 8,100 square feet. And then the applicant has acquired the parcel to the south, which has an old 1-story office building on it, and the parcel is approximately 4,100 square feet. So on the gasoline filling station portion, there's a 1,281 square foot building in which the convenience store is operating. They have a canopy over dispensers. Now that canopy, as I'm sure the board is aware, is angled in the northwest-southeast orientation, set back from Union Boulevard only 6.7 feet, and from 4th Avenue approximately 13 feet. The site virtually has no landscape area. The service station building on the site was issued a CO on March 30, 1951 for a gas station. In April 1982, the Board of Zoning Appeals granted permission to convert the repair bays of the gasoline filling station building to a convenience store. That was in 82, case 125-82. And the gasoline service station has 2 curb cuts on Union, 2 curb cuts on 4th Avenue, and they're very close. The easterly curb cut on Union is only about 20 feet from the intersection, and on the northerly curb cut on 4th Avenue is only approximately 12 feet. So it's a very old site, somewhat obsolete and in need of redevelopment. Now, the applicant proposes to demolish all existing structures and improvements on that total site. The consolidation of the 3 parcels will constitute a single parcel containing 23,423 square feet of area, or approximately 0.53 acres. The applicant proposes to erect a 2,975 square foot convenience market, which will also have a 181 square foot portico entry, erect a 3,120 square foot canopy over 5 gasoline dispensers. The 2 curb cuts on Union Boulevard will be consolidated into 1 curb cut, which will be right turn in, right turn out only, and will be now 60.7 feet west of the intersection with 4th Avenue. And the 2 curb cuts on 4th Avenue will be consolidated into 1 full movement curb cut and will now be approximately 76.7 feet south of the intersection with Union. The proposed canopy will be set back from Union Boulevard now 26 feet and from 4th Avenue at its closest point, 26.9 feet. The floor area ratio for the convenience store is only going to be 13.5%. The newly redeveloped site will have approximately 5,065 square feet of landscape area, or approximately 21.6% of the site. The convenience market will be set back from Union Boulevard approximately 29 feet, with an area between the northerly wall of the market and Union Boulevard landscaped with a water feature. The site at the intersection will be landscaped instead of having literally a canopy on the sidewalk with 2 curb cuts. There will be now approximately 2,464 square feet of landscape area along both road frontages, creating a very attractive corner. This landscape area represents approximately 52% of the total landscape area. The site will have 11 parking stalls adjacent to the convenience market. However, as we know, there will be 10 fueling positions at the dispensers, and for all practical purposes, we have 21 spaces. Although we cannot count the 10 spaces at the dispensers, we know that people leave their cars there to enter the convenience market, pay for their gasoline purchase if required, or to purchase a convenience item. On-site parking stalls, the ingress and egress of the gasoline tank and delivery truck, and the on-site traffic circulation and ingress and egress of vehicles to the roadways will be discussed by a traffic engineer following my presentation. The applicant will be erecting an attendance kiosk adjacent to the northerlymost fuel dispenser that you might see on your site plan. It will be fully air conditioned and heated. That dispenser will be a full-service dispenser for approximately 14 hours per day, and the attendant who will remain or who will be located in the kiosk will collect payment directly from the customer without the customer having to leave his or her vehicle to pay. They don't have to go in the store, and it is a service which has worked well, especially during this COVID pandemic. The attendant is also available to assist other consumers at the self-service dispensers if necessary. The applicant will install a generator on site mounted on a raised platform for emergency preparedness. Now, the applicant is proposing a very attractive building. I assume the board has seen the elevations. I know it's a little difficult to do things as we are doing on Zoom. I don't have the boards here for you to look at while I'm making my presentation, but it's a very attractive building. We'll have a classical appearance with gables and a hip-style roof. The roof will be shingled. The facade will be brick. We originally had stone. Planning had requested that it be brick, so it was changed to brick with a hardy lap siding. Facing 4th Avenue, the building will have a portico entry with brick columns. There will be a double entry into the convenience mark, as you can see the elevation on the screen now. The front will have extensive glass exposure. Facing Union Boulevard will be a gable detail in the hip roof structure. There'll be the windows facing Union. They're faux windows or fake windows, but to give it a nice appearance. Brick trim, hardy lap siding, in addition to the landscape setback with the water feature. The canopy will have a mansard style roof shingled to match the building. The support columns, as you will note, will be brick to match the building. The lighting beneath the canopy will be recessed into the canopy deck. The canopy will have the Valero name with the blue trim fascia. The canopy will be constructed with adequate structural capability to have solar panels installed in the future. The applicant is contemplating putting solar panels at some point in the future on the top of the canopy. The applicant is proposing a ground sign, as you will note, a monument sign at the northeast corner of the site in the landscaped area, and the sign will be mounted between 2 brick columns and will display the brand and the prices of the products. Now, the design and investment by the applicant is another step forward in the renaissance of the Bay Shore business area. Although the site will require some area variances, the area variance requests are not substantial in relation to the vast improvement the applicant will be providing at this location. If the change of zone and special permits are granted by this board, there will be no adverse impacts, only positive impacts. The site has had an operating motor vehicle fueling station since 1951 and a convenience store with that fueling station since 1982. The site will be enlarged to have much improved design for ingress and egress with the adjoining roadways, have vastly improved on-site traffic circulation, superior architecture, appearance, and landscape. The proposed layout will permit much easier on-site operation of motor vehicles by consumers, and there will be no queuing onto the sidewalk as sometimes occurs with the present location, present operation. The convenience store and fueling station typically do not generate traffic and are not destination points. They typically pick up traffic, pass by traffic, which is already in the traffic stream. The site is well located at the intersection of Union Boulevard and 4th Avenue, as Union Boulevard carries approximately 13,000 vehicles per day, 4th Avenue approximately 5,000 vehicles per day. If the redevelopment of the site, the redevelopment of the site will improve the appearance of the area and be a fast improvement over the existing conditions on the site. It will provide approximately 30 construction jobs during the period of demolition and construction. Following completion of construction and the operation of the convenience store will result in the creation of between 10 and 12 permanent and part-time jobs based on the anticipated volume the store will generate. The motor vehicle fueling station and convenience store will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days per week, and will obviously require employees for all shifts. The redeveloped site will provide a stable tax base for the town for many years to come. and it will not only generate higher real estate taxes than currently, I'm sure, but will generate greater sales tax revenue, although that's the county. The three small properties will be consolidated to one larger, well-functioning, vastly more attractive property. The redeveloped site will be an attractive, well-maintained property, providing service and product to the community. This board approved the change of zone and special permit that would encourage the orderly redevelopment of the site and permit a viable commercial use at this location. Planning board has recommended a grant of this application to the town board for the change of zone to business 3 and the special permits. Covenants and restrictions have been agreed to and will be submitted with the planning staff. Mr. Colgan and I only have one item to resolve, which I am 99% sure can be done without a problem. At this time, that concludes my presentation, Madam Supervisor, and I have a traffic engineer who will briefly submit some traffic information, and if the board has any questions, we'll make every attempt to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. DiNicola.
And Mr. Valeri, I'm sorry, Madam Supervisor, you said something?
No, just trying to move along.
Okay. Mr. Valeri, Andrew Valeri, would you please give your name, address, profession, advise the board if you prepared a traffic assessment report, and tell the board your findings and conclusions, if you will.
Certainly. For the record, my name is Andrew Valeri, spelled V as in Victor, Illeri. I am a traffic engineer at Stonefield Engineering and Design with local office addresses at 1601 Veterans Memorial Highway, Suite 301 in Islandia. My office has prepared a traffic assessment letter report. For the benefit of the record, that was dated October 23 of 2020. And in looking at an application such as the one in front of you today, we do a review of the site plan to understand if the proposal is an improvement or a detriment to the existing condition. And in comparison to the existing gas station, I'm sure everyone is familiar with it. This is a significant improvement in terms of on-site circulation and safety. You have a number of curb cuts that are very close to the intersection today, the canopy very close to the intersection today, and that would all be improved in the future. Much improved on-site circulation around the canopy, including all 5 pumps. The underground storage tanks for fuel would be relocated to an optimal location on the site to improve the flow of the tanker truck through the facility. We've done an analysis of the tanker truck route through the site, and it operates quite well. So in general, the site's been designed in accordance with industry standards. We're very happy with the way the site came out. I think it goes without saying that increasing the size of this property by acquiring 2 other lots did a lot here. We're not trying to shoehorn this application here. It's a larger property, which has been designed very well, and I think that it'll work quite well in the future. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or turn it back over to Mr. DiNicola.
Thank you, Mr. Valeri. Madam Supervisor, members of the board, if you have any questions, we'll make every attempt to answer them. Thank you.
Gene, John Cochran, did your traffic study study 4th Avenue from the summer months when we have over 1 million people going there for the ferries?
The traffic study, hold on one second. I can confirm that for you very shortly. Yes, the traffic study was done, or the traffic counts at the intersection were done in May of 2019. What's important to note about the traffic counts is that they were done, actually, they're the same traffic counts that VHB used for the Tri-Tech development. We didn't want to conduct traffic counts more recently due to the COVID, less roadway volume. So we're using the same counts that VHB did during May of 2019.
All right, that gets back to my other point. May does not count. You have to count July and August. You also, right now, once Toro gets built and knocked down, Final and Ferries keeps over 300 cars in that lot. Those cars most likely be across the street now at the parking lot at the train station, since we're offering some kind of special for the Final and Parkers. So that Vallejo station is going to get a lot of foot traffic going across, because that's what happens in the summer when the people that don't want to take a taxi down the ferry. They walk and they stop at 7-Eleven and get their food and supplies. They walk across. Now they're doing the same, but there's going to be a lot more foot traffic there.
So it's important to keep in mind with foot traffic, and I hear you. Somewhat recently, I'm trying to look for the exact date, but Suffolk County did do an improvement project at the intersection where they put in new crosswalks at the intersection and new pedestrian signals. So I think that they're anticipating, pedestrian traffic in the area. You have a very definite point of generation being the train station, and points elsewhere in the area that are going to be developed. So regarding, the pedestrian, the foot traffic aspect of this, gas station, I think will always be a vehicle-based use. You're filling up with gas, going to the convenience store, you're sharing the traffic between the two. And then for any impacts with pedestrians, I think the county foresaw that and did the improvement. I believe it was in 2018.
No, we did the improvement. It's called the Bayway
Counted it.
Corridor. And we also made that side of the street, which Vallejo is on, a bicycle path. So it's apparent you guys didn't look at what we did from the train station all the way down to the ferry terminal. I mean, this is a critical piece of highway. There's over 1 million people going to Fire Island from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
I agree with you. I apologize for giving the county credit. I should give the town credit, excuse me.
Are there any other questions for the traffic engineer? Or
I
Ms.
have none.
Nicola? Sure, Councilwoman?
No, I have none. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, then let us go to the department. Sean?
Thank you, Supervisor Carpenter, members of the board. There's not too much the department will add to Mr. DiNicola's presentation. We agree this renovates a dilapidated gas station and significantly improves the safety of that corner. And it should be further noted that it significantly approaches conformance with the town's minimum development standards, particularly for retail gas stations. So I'm here if you have any questions.
Are there any questions for the department?
None.
Mary, has anyone signed to speak on this application?
Not to speak, no.
Okay, great. Hearing none, are there any questions or comments anyone has from the board for the applicant or the department?
No.
Okay, can I have a motion then?
Supervisor, I'll make that motion because I think it really cleans up a dilapidated gas station and makes it such a more pleasant corner for that particular intersection. So I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Quick question,
Thank
the
you.
motion is to close the public hearing, adopt the neg deck. and-
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
Motion
sorry. Yes,
was.
my motion is to close the public hearing, adopt the negative declaration, and approve the application. Yes, sir.
And likewise, a second by Councilman Cochran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. Have a good evening. Stay
You
well
too.
and stay safe.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, if you would, please take us to the next public hearing.
Yes, hearing number 2 for the evening is TC 5362. This is the town board's own motion regarding McConnell Avenue in Bayport. Notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of Islip will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 25th, 2021 at 5 p.m. via Zoom webinar and will be streamed live over the internet on the application of the town board's own motion regarding McConnell Avenue in Bayport. Town board's own motion for a change of zone from Industrial 1 District to Residence A District. The environmental impacts will be assessed on this property located in the Bayport Blue Point School District on the east side of McConnell Avenue, approximately 500 feet south of Montauk Highway, Montauk Highway, Bayport, west side of Oakwood Avenue, approximately 747 feet south of Montauk Highway. Also in Bayport, Town of Islip, Suffolk County, New York, Town Board, Town of Islip, Olga Murray, Town Clerk.
Thank you. Sean?
Yep, thank you. This application is being presented as part of one of the recommendations of the Bayport Hamlet study, which the town recently adopted back in December. The study discusses this particular parcel and states this industrial parcel currently is a single-family home, and it is surrounded by single-family residential. Residential use appears to be more appropriate than industrial or business, given the surrounding build context. So in light of the interest of this property, the staff felt it was appropriate to bring this application before the board for their consideration in order to implement the components of the Bayport Hamlet study plan. So I'm here if you have any questions on this.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? I would just like to state that I was advised that there might be one or two little issues that still have to be worked out. So I'm recommending that we close the public hearing and reserve decision on this application tonight. So can I have a motion?
Yeah, I just have a question. Oh, well, I have a question. What are the couple of things that we need to close out, or you don't want to go into discussion on that?
I was speaking with the developer this afternoon, I should say the property owner this afternoon. There is one issue regarding the sanitary system that he's trying to work out with Suffolk County Department of Health. And I'm hoping that he can work those out, for the future development of single family homes. And that if he does work those out, I'm hopeful that he'll be supportive of this application.
I understand. So Supervisor, I'll give you a second on that motion.
Okay. Who would like to make the motion?
Well,
I
first,
thought you made it.
I think we have to ask if people want to be heard.
I apologize. I didn't think that I had any slips on that, but Mary, is there anyone who signed?
There are two people that would like to be heard.
Okay, why don't we call them in then? Thank you, JR.
First speaker is Timothy Boyd.
Mr. Boyd, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm just trying to get this. There we go. So basically, so the owner is Jim Tunis. Is that correct?
I personally don't know. Mr.
Sir,
Town
could we
Attorney-
get your name and address for the record,
My name
please?
is Timothy Boyd. I live at 337 McConnell Avenue. I'm directly
Thank
adjacent to that property.
All right.
Well, if Mr. DeCiccio, am I saying that correctly? Spoke with the owner. He just said he spoke with the owner today. So someone's got to know his name.
Well, I just said I didn't know, and that was why I asked the town attorney to please answer your question.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't
That's
hear
okay.
that.
I don't think the name of the property owner is relevant to the application before the board.
Well, okay, but Northwind still owns the property then? I understand. So
What's the issue?
the issue is, well, right now, that property is in such disrepair. There is such vermin there. Rats, raccoons, the buildings are falling down. I mean, when they start to demolish that, where's all that going to go? Is animal control from the town going to clean that up before this guy starts to build? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't really prepared to.
We're happy to have it go to residential.
I mean, we wanted to go to residential, no question about it. So
And
I'm
this
just trying to
is the
figure out.
first step to that goal of yours.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
And certainly, in the process of demolition and everything, every safety measure that can be employed will be to protect the adjacent property to any site that's being demoed.
okay.
All right.
Sorry, I don't want
I
to
can
take away.
appreciate your concerns and thank you for bringing them forward.
All right. Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Mary, could you bring in the next speaker? Thank you, Mr. Boyd.
Next speaker is coming in now, Matthew Fedham.
Matthew? If you can hear us, you have 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, and start my video. Hi,
There you are.
how are you? My name's Matt Federn, and my wife's with me too, but we live at 325 McConnell, so we also are in contact with the property. And we had worked against the previous plans for this, and we're very happy to hear that this is going to Residence A. I want to make sure that that's clear to start with. I think that's appropriate. We had a few questions, and I had sent them in, And I'm just going to ask real quickly, what specifically can be built on Residence A district? I.e., is it single-family detached homes? Is that exactly what's can be built on there?
Sean, if you would respond to that?
Well, that's one of the permitted uses in the Residence A district. They could also build a church or a house of worship. It could be used for an agriculture and nursery use. It could be used as a private membership club, a cemetery, or a school. But I guess to get to the gist of your question, more commonly, they're built for single-family detached dwellings.
Okay, thank you on that. What size lots would be expected to be put in there? Would you, I don't even know if that could be answered, but I was wondering, like, is the minimum a quarter acre?
Normally in the public hearings, Mr. Federn, it's not a question and answer, but basically to hear your comments.
Okay,
But whatever is appropriate for Residence A, there's a certain minimum lot requirement.
okay.
I don't know off the top of my head.
11,000
Sean,
square
do you?
feet.
Pardon me?
11,250 square feet, right, Sean?
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
A quarter acre, okay, approximately.
I appreciate
Thank
that.
you. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Boyd had already asked one of the questions I had, and I guess the last one, and I'm sorry, you just said not questions. I think you were indicating the sewage system would have to be looked into there. And I assume they would go something similar to what's been put up with most things where we have one of these big sewage treatment plants. Is that like what's going on now? Is that what usually happens?
That's one, that could be one possibility. And these are some of the questions that the property owner is trying to resolve with the Department of Health.
Okay. I appreciate,
And also I would also like just to second the concern that Mr. Boyd had with what's going on over there with how dilapidated the buildings are and the amount of rats and raccoons.
okay.
Well, since this is the second person that's mentioning that, we'll make arrangements to have someone go check the parcel and make sure that everything is stable and see if there's anything we can do. If there is that kind of, wildlife there, perhaps we should be calling the Suffolk County Health Department.
We did.
Well, why don't we follow up and bolster it for you?
Thank you.
Appreciate
You're very
it.
welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for pushing towards what the Hamlet study said. That's much appreciated. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you for participating. That means a lot.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Mary, are there any other speakers?
One more person who has said she would like to speak. She is
Okay.
Madeline Higgins, coming in now.
Thank you. Madeline, you're up.
Hi. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Madeline Higgins, and I reside directly adjacent to the property that's in question right now. Mr. Fetter did ask a couple of the questions that I was also going to ask regarding the sewage system. And I will agree that next door, the buildings are dilapidated. Going to residential would be ideal. My other concern is with regard to the traffic. This is a very narrow road, and if we're going to be putting up single-family homes, whether they be 4 or maybe 6, it's got to be taken into consideration how the traffic pattern that's going to change. There's a lot of young children that live on this block. People park on the street. So I just wanted to point out that that would probably be a very important factor when deciding whether another road has to go from McConnell to Oakwood, because this is a huge piece of property. And again, like I said, I live right next door to the property, and there are children all over this block, and people, there's not a stop, there are one stop sign, but it is a concern where there's going to be an increase in traffic, increase in residents. So that was my first question. I just wanted it to be noted that that would be looked into rather, really in depth. My other question was, in the past, this has been brought up, there was talk of a possible park being built on that property. Is that even in discussion, or is that off the table? Is that anything that's been discussed?
It really has not been discussed. To change that to parkland would be quite a cumbersome process. So no.
No. Okay. Well, I was thinking when he mentioned the school and a church, worship. I mean, there really is no. I mean, there's a couple parks in the town here, but there's nothing. You would have to either go by car or by bike. It's quite a far ways to have to take, your young children to a park. It was just a suggestion. I just wanted to hear what your thoughts were on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Mary, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, great. Okay, are there any further questions or comments for the department? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing and reserve. Motion by Councilwoman Mullen, second by Councilman Cochran. All those in favor? Opposed? Approved. And that takes us to our third application. TC 5363 Steel Campus LLC and Marcus ISP Apartment Holdings LLC as tenants in common, formerly New York Institute of Technology. If you would, Madam Clerk, please read the hearing notice.
Yes, thank you, Madam Supervisor. Hearing number 3 this evening on TC 5363. Notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of Islip will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 25th, 2021 at 5 p.m. via Zoom webinar and will be streamed live over the internet on the application of Steel Campus LLC and Marcus ISP Apartments Holdings LLC as tenants in common, NYIT. Applicant requests a modification of code covenants associated with TC 5353 in order to increase the number of apartment units from 354 to 364 and require a roundabout on Eastview Drive in lieu of a transportation fee. The environmental impacts will be assessed on this property located in the Central Islip School District on the east side of Carlton Avenue, approximately 1,215 feet north of Courthouse Drive, Central Islip, Town of Islip, Suffolk County, New York. Town Board, Town of Islip, Olga Murray, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Olga. Applicant's ready to go, so why don't we proceed?
Good evening, Madam Supervisor. For the applicant, Brian Kennedy from the law firm of Forcelli, Deegan, and Tirana, with offices at 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Suite 1010, Uniondale, New York. Madam Supervisor, before I begin my presentation, I ask for permission to share my screen.
Certainly.
Has this been activated?
Yep, we can see it.
My presentation will be very brief since we were before the board just a few weeks ago. This site is presently occupied by 15 brick buildings formerly utilized as the New York Institute of Technology Central Islip campus. The entire site is located within the Town of Islip's Central Islip Plan Development District. The applicant is before this board seeking a modification of existing covenants and restrictions associated with TC 5353. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the applicant was before this board on November 19th of 2020 for a change of zone application, a modification to existing covenants and restrictions, and an amendment to the Town of Islip's master plan. All of the requested changes were granted as part of the applicant's proposed revitalization of this site. Now, the final step of this change of zone application required the applicant to file the approved covenants and restrictions with the Suffolk County Clerk's office. The town attorney and town clerk both must approve these covenants before they can be accepted for filing. To that end, after receiving unanimous approval from this board, we worked toward filing the approved covenants and restrictions. During this process, and during our consultation with the town attorney's office and planning department, we discovered that there were minor changes required before the covenants could be filed and this change of zone be made effective. Now, our initial proposal called for the applicant to renovate the existing structures in order to house 354 apartment units, as well as construct a traffic roundabout on Eastview Drive. During preliminary meetings with the town and community members, there was nearly unanimous agreement and support for this traffic roundabout, as a measure to mitigate the traffic concerns along Eastview Drive. The applicant took this input and drafted a site plan that included this proposed roundabout. Now, during our discussions with the town prior to our November 19th, 2020 approval, it was determined that the applicant would voluntarily provide a $500,000 mitigation fee instead of constructing this roundabout. That fee was to be used to construct this roundabout, and that fee was in lieu of the applicant providing the roundabout or any other traffic mitigation device on Eastview. Now, while finalizing these terms with the members of the town board, with the members of the town, it was determined that the applicant would no longer be required to provide this mitigation fee to the town, and instead, our original plan would apply. Therefore, the applicant will now be responsible for constructing the roundabout on Eastview, subject to approval by the town's Department of Public Works and Planning Department. Now, as a result of this determination, the final sentence of Section 3 of the proposed covenants must be removed. Now, since we were required to come before the town board to address this roundabout issue, we would also like to request another minor change to the covenants. Since we received our initial approval, the applicants and their design team have learned that there is room for 10 additional units spread across this site. Now, the proposed units will be spread across 2 buildings. Building 7, this large building on the lower left-hand corner of your screen. That building 7 will have 4 additional units in it. Building 13, just to the right of that on the screen, will have 8 new units. Now, north of the purple building, that building number 6, that has been reconfigured and will see a decrease of 2 units from our original proposal. So of the 10 proposed new units, 9 will be studio units and 1 will be a 1-bedroom unit. Our original proposal called for 29 studio units and 189 1-bedroom units. Should this board grant our request, there will be a total of 38 studio units and 190 1-bedroom units. Now, the applicant believes the impact on the Central Islip School District will be negligible. If you recall, during our initial application, David Wortman of VHB Engineering highlighted the limited impact this project will have on the school district. The combination of the senior housing component paired with the fact that the vast majority of the proposed units will be studio and 1-bedroom units will ensure that this site generates few school-aged children. I'd also like to point out that this minor increase in the unit number will not have any significant impact on the traffic generated at this site. Now, if you recall Bob Eschbacher's testimony at our November 19th hearing, he highlighted the fact that the traffic analysis conducted by VHB was based on a proposal of 369 apartment units. All traffic information was based on that number. Now, should the board grant our proposed increase, we will still be below the number of units studied in our traffic analysis. Again, it's our position that this is a minor increase. Should the board grant this requested relief, the project density will increase from the approved 4.24 units per acre to a total of 4.36 units per acre. This increase will maintain a significantly lower density than what is permitted at the site. Now, before I conclude, I would just like to highlight we have been in constant contact with the members of the community. I've spoken with nearly a member of every surrounding development regarding these proposed changes, as well as leaders of all 3 surrounding community groups. I spoke again with Debbie Kavanaugh of the Central Islip Coalition of Good Neighbors, and Nancy Manfredonia of the Central Islip Civic Council earlier this morning. Both have expressed their strong support for this application. Now, with that, Madam Supervisor, we ask that this board look favorably on our application, and we welcome any questions the board may have. Present with me, I have Dane Kenny, David Wortman, and Bob Eschbacher of VHB Engineering, as well as principals of both Steel Equities and the Marcus Organization.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy. At this point, does anyone have any questions or comments before I go to the department?
I do. I just want to make sure that there was a lot of talk about the location and of the additional units. I just want to make sure that the applicant is on board with doing the roundabout, because that road it's the highway to the CI train station. And while it's a side street, it is very, very dangerous. And you're willing to do that, correct?
That is correct, Councilwoman Bergen. That is why we are here today. We are happy to comply with whatever the town would like to see in regards to the Eastview roundabout.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Councilman O'Connor, was that you who had a question?
I did. I'm just not sure where the appropriate point to ask it is, whether it's of the department or of the applicant or of the town attorney. So whatever everybody thinks,
Well,
I can ask the question now if that's the best course.
why don't you go ahead?
Specifically referring to the covenants and restrictions under administrative and pointing to item 3. I want to read it because I think I'm finally understanding it, and I want to make sure I'm understanding it before I'm asked to vote on it. Applicant owner agrees to pay $2 per square foot of newly constructed building area prior to the issuance of a site plan approval. So that's consistent with our town code. The second sentence is where my question is. Any rehabilitation of existing structures is not subject to the CIPDD mitigation fees. And then, of course, we have the language that's been stricken with respect to agreeing to voluntarily pay the $500,000 towards park and transportation improvements. And instead, the declarant owner agrees at the sole cost and expense to design, construct, and maintain a roundabout on Eastview Drive. So as I'm understanding it, this proposal is to rehabilitate existing structures. Is that correct, Council?
That is correct, Councilman.
So under the town code, you would have no obligation to pay the $2 per square foot because it's not newly constructed building area. Is that correct? That's what I don't understand, and I need to understand.
That is not correct.
Okay.
In regards to the 15 existing buildings, you are correct. We will not be paying a $2 per square foot fee. However, if you see on the site plan, the screen, you see that purple building?
I do.
As well as there's a small guard booth located to the lower left-hand corner at the entrance of the building. We will be paying a $2 per square foot for those 2 buildings.
Okay, thanks. I thought I read it right, and now I definitely understand it. Thank you.
Perfect. Are there any other questions or comments? Sean, did you want to weigh in on this?
Sorry about that.
Oh, there you are.
Just briefly, the applicant is proposing to increase the numbers by what the department feels is an insignificant amount. And as stated by the applicant, they are constructing the roundabout, which town personnel believes will preserve more funds in the CI PDD mitigation fund. So with that, we support the changes. I'm here if you have any questions.
Great. Are there any questions?
Supervisor, I have a question of the department.
Sure.
Sean, with the addition of these 10 units, what is the parking situation like? Is it still adequate parking, or did they need a relaxation?
Nope, there was no relaxation needed. I should point out they're well over the landscape requirements. So even if things need to change over the course of engineering the site, there is ample space to include additional parking spaces where the town engineer sees warranted. So at this point, there's no relaxation for parking requested.
Thank you.
I don't know if anyone signed up to speak on this, Mary, but I did get a call earlier today. The president of the CI Council of Good Neighbors, Debbie Kavanaugh, was not able to be on the call tonight, but did want to reiterate again their total support for this project and anything that we were discussing tonight.
Okay, she did end up being able to Zoom on.
Oh, okay.
I'll move her in now, and
Okay, fine.
and then there's one other person who has indicated they want to speak.
Okay, great. Debbie Kavanaugh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just stating, Angie, I'm just going to reiterate everything you just said.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my other meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And Mary, the next speaker?
And the other person is, where'd she go? Ellen Vargas.
Ellen?
Let's see if we can help her.
Ellen, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great.
Can you? Yeah. My question was just that, you know, why didn't they know this when they first proposed it? Because the same thing with Farrell, you know, they came in with the plan and they, you know, they did a good job and everything. But then afterwards, they always seem to propose more apartments. What is the purpose of, you know, not doing it at the beginning?
Well, as anything in life, you know, things come up and things change. And I guess, you know, going from them constructing the roundabout themselves, I guess looked at the project, but just so you're aware, and I think it's an important factor, they are so well below what the density would be on 87 acres. And it's going from 4.2 4 to 4.6. So it's still quite far below, but I would ask the department if they would like to respond to that.
The only thing I can offer to add, I mean, I defer to the applicant, but it's not unusual for these rehabs, for these changes to plan. When you open up walls and stuff, you're just unsure of the construction, and sometimes the layouts always don't turn out the way they've been. That's been my experience personally here at the town of Islip for these older building rehabs. I'm sure the applicant will agree with me.
Sean, you are precisely correct. This really is just a function of our design professionals getting inside, getting a better handle on what exists at the site.
Right. And one more thing, with you doing the turnabout, is anything going to be changed from the original plan?
No, they'll be working closely with the Department of Public Works and making sure it conforms to New York State vehicle and traffic law. They're very specific about that.
Very good. That was my big thing. Yeah.
Okay,
thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much.
Just a name and address up before she leaves, please.
Certainly.
Excuse me?
If you could, just for the record, your name and address.
Ellen Vargas.
Right.
103 Meyer Circle, Central Islip.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Vargas. Mary, any other speakers?
Nobody else has indicated they wanted to speak.
Okay, great. Okay, since we have no other speakers, if there are any other questions or comments to the board, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Supervisor, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and adopt the negative declaration and approve the application or the
We have a
modification.
motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Mullen, second by Councilman O'Connor. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, we don't have a hearing notice. The next item is a decision item. Our final item, TC 5359, E17 Holdings, LLC. And I do believe the applicant is prepared to make a presentation.
Yes. Good evening again, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. Brian Kennedy, same appearance. for the applicant. Present with me is Andrew Valeri of Stonefield Engineering. I just asked to confirm that you can see the exhibits on my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the applicant was before this board on January 28th seeking to convert 5,638 square feet of an existing fitness center into a medical office. A parking relaxation was required as part of that redevelopment. Now, during the public hearing, members of the town board raised some valid concerns with the project, and we believe we have answered them. First, prior to the public hearing, the applicant had engaged in negotiations with the owners of the adjacent Fairfield site to address the proposed improvements to Fairfield's property, which will be paid for by the applicant. At the request of this board, we have secured a written letter agreement between the applicant and Fairfield management. This agreement was submitted to the planning department on February 18th. Now, prior to our last appearance, my client had conducted these negotiations. Since that time, I have personally engaged in negotiations with Fairfield's attorney, Gary Heisiger, and we are actively negotiating the terms of a mutually acceptable access agreement. I can confidently say that there should be no issue executing a mutually acceptable agreement. Now, we have also provided the planning staff with all relevant access agreements. This includes agreements between 255, 265, and 269 East Main Street, as well as 8 Laurel Avenue. Further, the applicant provided a copy of the perpetual offer of cross-access and parking signed by the applicant in anticipation of 281 East Main Street being improved at some point in the future. Now, as you'll see on the screen, we've also provided a floor plan to the planning department of what the redesigned fitness center will look like. These preliminary plans show the proposed layout of the fitness center and the medical office. Obviously, the applicant is happy to make revisions to these plans as it moves forward through the approval process and obtains input from planning and engineering. Now, I would just like to point out the entrance to the gym located at the northern portion, the rear of the property. And there is no entrance to the gym at the western portion or the southern portion. Now, during our public hearing, Councilman O'Connor raised some concerns about landscaping and the proposed new parking spaces to be installed on Fairfield's property. The planning department has added language to the proposed covenants in section 8H to address these concerns. The applicant has no objection to this addition and will do everything it can to ensure that it shields the northern residences from any disturbance. Finally, on February 17th, the applicant submitted an updated parking memorandum prepared by Andrew Valeri of Stonefield Engineering. And at this point, I would call on Andrew just to speak briefly on this updated memorandum. Andrew, are you available?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening again. So my office prepared a additional memo that was dated February 17th. It summarizes the net changes in parking in the facility. And if we go back to the prior presentation, the front parking lot, which will service the Stony Brook medical parking, it's going to be reduced down to it's going to be reduced by 15 parking stalls. They're going to lose 15 parking stalls in the front, but that's to bring that parking area up to industry standards, make sure that there's adequate room for backing out of all the parking stalls and maneuvering around that area. That's going to be exclusively for Stony Brook. As Mr. Kennedy mentioned, the gym access will be relocated to the rear. The front entrance will be completely redone. We were just referencing another plan that showed it quite well as well. But also in this area, we will be doing some improvements to the rear parking area, significant improvements. We're actually going to be adding 20 parking stalls in the rear there. That was at the request of planning. So if you think about it, we have a loss of 15 in the front, an addition of 20 in the rear. On total, we have a net gain of 5 parking stalls. So, at the last meeting, there was some discussion about whether or not there will be enough parking for the gym in the future. The gym is going to have more parking. It's all going to get relocated in the back, and it's all going to get redone with a nice new entrance. So, like I said, in total, net gain of 5 parking stalls. And that was something that was baked into the parking study that we had done previously. Really, the update that we had done last week was really just to explain the net increase of 5 stalls and how the existing uses would operate quite well with that improvement.
Thank you. Okay, any questions or comments for the applicant before Sean comes back?
I guess I just had one question if I could.
Sure.
We heard in the last application about people being creatures of habit. Currently, there is an entrance, Mr. Kennedy, currently there is an entrance to the gym on the easternmost portion, the place that you were highlighting earlier in your screen sharing, where it now is reading, I think, as like an emergency exit. So the folks who currently park in the front walk along, and you can see it also in the aerial. There's a path there. They walk along that path and they enter the gym in that way. And so you're saying that is not going to be available to them should this board approve that application. The only entrance to the gym is going to be from the western portion, and the only place for them to park is going to be north of the facility. So I understand all of that. I also understand, I think, a concern that one of my colleagues raised, that people are creatures of habit and that they are used to parking in the front, and they're going to try and park in the front and use that path to gain access to the gym. And they'll meet with great frustration, I'm sure, because they're not going to be able to get access to it. Is there something that you can do from a planning perspective to discourage somebody from continuing to park in the front and use that path that's there now? Is that path going to be taken out? Is a fence going to be erected there? I'm just looking for some way to address the concern raised by one of my colleagues that people are creatures of habit. They have always accessed the gym that way. And is there going to be something more that can be done to discourage them from doing that?
Well, our initial proposal was to put signage at that front parking lot to restrict access to customers of the Stony Brook Pediatric Center. Now, as we move through site plan review, if planning determines that we should put a fence or some other mechanism to restrict walking paths, we would be more than happy to do that.
It sounds like signage might be helpful, and once a week or two pass or a month, people are going to get the idea. And there's going to be more parking in the back, so they'll eventually get the idea and go to the back where the entrance is. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, I'm familiar with the property. I drove it again today. I don't see this plan working, is my comment.
I appreciate your concerns, Councilwoman.
I also have driven the property, and I was encouraged to hear that there are going to be improvements made to the existing parking because it really is kind of difficult to maneuver. So that's encouraging. And the fact that overall is going to be a net gain of 5 parking spaces, should mitigate any concerns.
And Madam Supervisor, if I can add one other thing, I have already engaged in conversations with Mr. Colgan regarding the possibility to add spaces on top of the 20 that are required. And that is something that our client is willing to entertain should planning deem that appropriate as we move forward. So I hope that addresses some of your concerns, Councilwoman Bergen.
In all honesty, it doesn't.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and deny the application.
Well, the public hearing has already been closed. This is a decision item.
And then I make a motion to deny the application.
Is there a second for that? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to issue a negative declaration, approve the application.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, 4 in favor, 1 opposed. The application passes.
Thank you.
You're very
Have a
welcome.
good evening.
You're very welcome. Anything else to come before us? I see or hear none. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman O'Connor,
Second.
second by Councilman Cochran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you.